We're live. We're live. Hello, everyone. Greetings, greetings, greetings. As always, I want to give a couple minutes for everyone to make their way in. But as you're coming in, please say hello in the chat. Let me know if you're here for the first time. And I would love to hear what did your church focus on Easter? Obviously, we know we talked about resurrection, but what was the sort of the specific lens, or if you were to summarize the main theme or point of the sermon or your service, what was the theme that your church went with, if you went to church or if you're a part of a church this Easter, that they sort of looked at Easter or celebrated Easter through? For example, at our church, Soul City Church, they sort of looked at this whole theme of new life, and they used the metaphor of a garden, and which was a really cool way to talk about not only the resurrection, but the new life that Jesus offered us through a relationship with him. I was serving at a church this weekend where they talked about encounter over insight, this idea that, especially when it comes to traditions like Easter, much about the tradition, it's so much about understanding the tradition and what it means and the significance behind it, and reading, and as Christians, reading our Bibles and understanding more and more about God. But really what Easter is all about, it's about having an encounter, having an experience with Jesus. So I would love to hear, as you're coming in, say hello in the chat. Let me know what was sort of the theme or main message at your Easter service, if you were a part of an Easter service yesterday. I would love to hear a little bit. Nicole Marie says how our shame was nailed to the cross, so it is finished. That's a good one. It's a good one. What's wrong with me? Wasn't able to make it to church on Easter. I'm so sorry. I hope you feel better. Let's see. Mi Dios es cool from Puerto Rico. Welcome. So glad you're here. Leah says, we focused on the fact that everything is worthless if he had not risen. 1 Corinthians 15. Our preaching in faith is in vain if he has not risen. Yeah, if Jesus was a liar, or if his followers were liars, then do we have really any hope at all? That's a good one. That's a good one. Welcome to Cafe Collins. First time here, so glad you made it. Chloe Powell, welcome. Jake Heider, so awesome. We served at our church for all 6 services and Good Friday service too. That's awesome. Thank you for serving your church so well. I love it. Let's see. Sarah says we did a play both days, and we talked about how Jesus can help people in all situations. That's great. I love it. That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to Q&J Today. This is the show where I hop on to answer your questions, for us to chat a little bit. Clearly, I was hanging some clothes over there on the doorknob. I apologize for that. I'm gonna go remove that. But anyway, this is the show where I hop on to answer some of your most burning questions. So as we're getting started, please start throwing questions over in the chat. I'm going to start answering those in just a minute. These can be questions on anything that you all want to talk about today. I am here for you. I'm here to bring you as much value as possible. As always, I do not promise to have all the answers, but I do promise to be as honest as I possibly can. So as we're getting started, start throwing questions over in the chat. I also want to let you all know that today's show, as with everything, are brought to you by the Super Chat. Many of you gave me some great feedback on the most recent spoken word poem that I uploaded on Good Friday. This is Good Friday spoken word, talking about the hidden symbols and significance of the cross. And one of the reasons that I make videos like that and continue to put them out here on YouTube for free is because of the generosity of people like you in the Super Chat, partnering with me, partnering with this ministry, and giving of your resources to help me continue to make these videos. And so if you're in a place today where you're able to give $1, $2, $5, $10 in the Super Chat, what that'll do is it'll highlight your question or comment in the chat, guarantee that I'll answer it. But also every dollar given in the Super Chat goes straight towards helping me to continue to make these videos like we just talked about. So if you're in a place where you're able to do that today, all you have to do is click the little money symbol. It's located just under where you type something into the chat. You give $1, $2, $5, $20, however you are able. It really does make a huge difference, and I am so, so grateful for it. All right, now that that's out of the way, what do you guys say? Let's get down to business. To defeat the Huns, let's answer some questions. What questions do we have today? Ocean of Devotion, love that name, asks, do you think you will ever have kids? I hope so. I hope so. Sweet Bear and I, that's a conversation we continue to revisit every couple months or so, and it's just not quite the season that we feel we are in yet. I know that sort of makes us abnormal. We're going to be married 4 years in August. And a lot of people, especially in the Christian community, they have kids sort of very quickly or right away after getting married. That's just not sort of where we're feeling led. There are things that we sort of want to do and things we want to accomplish and whatnot. And that just feels like the season we're in right now. But it's something we continue to pray about. We continue to discuss with one another. But it's absolutely 100% something that we want to be a part of our lives and want to be a part of our future. We're just trying to be incredibly wise with when exactly we step into that season. Araminta Williams, thank you so much. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you for the $10 in the super chat. That really means a lot. What's your opinion on contraceptions? Some Christians view it as bad, but I don't understand how it is if you want to wait a couple years to have children. Doesn't that make sense? Absolutely. So this is a really great question. For those of you who maybe aren't understanding exactly that big word contraceptions, what Araminta is referring to is things like birth control, things like, you might even go as far as talk about morning after pills, things like that. These things that we use to ensure that we're able to have sex and not necessarily get pregnant. And so my sort of view on that, I guess it's more important that we understand the grand sort of general conversation around things like contraception. The reason that some people are very much against contraception is because of the idea of like, where does life begin? Many Christians, I would argue all Christians, would be against the idea of ending human life. Well, does human life start at conception? And so is any time you have sex, is that supposed to create human life? Yeah, say it by using a condom or by using birth control, that you are essentially ending the possibility of human life in that circumstance. That's how some people see it, and that's why in certain circles, certain forms of contraception are thought of to be taboo or wrong, or even some people would go as far as to say sinful. And I think everyone draws their line at different ways. Some people are like, I would never use a condom. Other people are like, I'm not really okay with birth control. And other people are like, I'm okay with either of those, but like a morning after pill, maybe not. And it just keeps going down the line, if that makes sense. For me personally, I'm not exactly sure where my line falls. I'll let you know. It's certainly not I don't think it's sinful or wrong to use condoms or birth control or anything like that. And once again, you might totally disagree with me, and that's okay. I think we can have a civil discourse about it. I think, and part of that comes from the fact that I think there are other reasons that God created the act of sex other than just to create human life. I think there are other life-giving things that happen between a couple who is in love when they have sex. I think there are other things that happen other than just the possibility for creation of human life. And so that's sort of where I fall on it. But please remember, I am not like right about that. I don't know if any of us are. But that's a great conversation, a great question. I really appreciate it. We got a couple more super chats. One coming in from Lauren Clattman. Lauren says, Happy Resurrection Day. God bless you. God bless you, Lauren. You're the best. Some Super Wonder Who Arts. Welcome back. Let's see. Oh, question. Yes, thank you for your super chat, first of all. $2 in the super chat. I so appreciate it. Then let's see. Thoughts on Christian artists swearing in songs. This is also a great question. So I don't view it. It shouldn't surprise anyone who has followed me for any amount of time. I do not view this as a black and white issue. I would not say it is never, ever in any circumstance okay for a Christian artist to swear during a song. I wouldn't say that. I think it depends. The context matters. The circumstances matter. The heart behind it and the reasoning, all of that context really matters. And so I would instead have to look at each individual sort of I guess, instance where that occurred, and then I would form my opinion based on, is the artist using it in a way that really helps them make their point? Because the Bible often uses very, very strong language. The Bible doesn't necessarily use curse words or the four-letter swear words that we have defined in our modern culture as swear words, but that's because many of those words didn't even exist for these biblical writers. But they do use a lot of very strong language for their day, but they do it, or they use a lot of very adult, very graphic metaphors, but they do it in service of telling a greater, more redemptive story. That's one of many questions that I would ask myself when I encountered it. So yeah, absolutely. I think another question to ask is who is the audience, and what point is, what action is that artist trying to get that audience to take? Does that make sense? So I think there's a lot of questions to ask. I do not view it as a black and white binary thing. That's how I view it. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. Let's see. Doretha Roy asked, does the Bible talk about slaves and other stuff like that? Because atheists or other people say that it does. Is that the question you're asking? Yes, the Bible talks about slavery quite a bit, actually. There are slaves in the Bible. There are laws and there are commands that God gives in terms of how a slave should interact with their master, how a master should interact with their slaves. That is true. That is real. My thoughts on it and my beliefs are, I do not believe that the Bible is condoning slavery. That is unfortunately how many people viewed it for hundreds of years. And a big part of the reason why slavery existed specifically here in the US for so many years was because people misunderstood what the Bible was saying, and they used it in order to sort of move forward their own selfish means and desires. But what we have to understand is that the Bible was written in a certain time, and within the time that these writers were writing, slavery was very, very common and even celebrated in a lot of cultures. And within that, God, with the Bible is, especially much of the Old Testament, is the story of God working within a group of people called the Israelites. And so many of the commands that we get in terms of slavery and things like that are given to these people, the Israelites. And what we have to understand is that God was meeting the Israelites where they were at in the world that they were at. And he was teaching them how to be a reflection of who he is. He was teaching them of how to be a reflection of his beauty in every area of their lives. And so God met them where they were at. And if you look at the cultural context, so much of the commands that God is giving around slavery were utterly progressive. Now, but I think that's because God was leading them on a journey towards holiness. Not necessarily, God's not necessarily just like bringing them there right away. He's bringing them on a journey towards holiness. Does that make sense? So that the Bible does talk about it, but it's not necessarily condoning it. The Bible is more of a story of God leading people from their brokenness into holiness, into his presence, into relationship with him, and into a life where we are reflecting and imaging him to the world. So Brian Slater, thank you for the super chat. I so appreciate you. A lot of people asking this question in the chat. Can you talk about how to handle doubt? Great question. I'm actually reading a book right now that talks a lot about doubt and about skepticism. It's called The Skeptical Believer by Daniel Taylor. And in it, he makes this really interesting point that doubt is actually doubt is not good and doubt is not bad. Doubt is sort of amoral. It's what we do with that doubt, because there are good kinds of doubt. For example, if I'm standing on the edge of a cliff, I doubt that I'm going to survive if I jump off it. That's good doubt. Doubt in that circumstance is protecting me, and in fact, it is saving my life. Now, there's also the bad kind of doubt. Like, I doubt that, I doubt that Sweet Bear will still love me 10 years from now. And so maybe I'll just divorce her now. That's a terrible kind of doubt. That's not a doubt that I have. My wife loves me so wonderfully, and I rarely ever doubt her love, which is awesome. But does that make sense? So it's more of doubt can be helpful and doubt can be hurtful. It's more, where does that doubt pop up and what do we do with that doubt? So applying that to our faith now, I can have a doubt that God is good, or I can have a doubt that God is real. What do I do with that doubt? Do I allow that doubt to draw me away from faith? Or do I use that doubt as sort of a propelling force to dive deeper into the scripture and to learn more and to pursue God all the more because I have this doubt? All of us are going to have doubts, especially when it comes to our relationship with God, especially when it comes to God and Christianity, because it's a pretty crazy thing if you think about it. The idea that there is this supreme being that rules over, created and rules over the entire universe that we cannot see, touch, or hear. That's a crazy thought. Of course you're going to doubt it, because our culture and our world teaches us to doubt anything that we do not have quote unquote hard evidence for. The question is, what are you going to do in the face of doubt? What are you going to do when you hit doubt? Are you going to let that repel you away from God and use doubt as an excuse for why you don't believe? Or are you going to enter into that doubt and seek to satisfy it, knowing full well that it's never going to be completely satisfied? But are you able to use your doubt to help you drive deeper into the heart of God? Absolutely. So that's what I would say. Some people are saying have faith. I agree. However, faith and doubt are not opposites. They're not opposites. It's not I have faith or I am doubting. I don't think that's true, because to have faith in something, that means that you don't know, you don't have hard proof, you don't have hard evidence. The Bible talks about faith as the assurance of things unseen, the assurance of things hoped for. It means we don't have hard evidence for them. Doubt and the presence of doubt gives us a reason to have faith. Because I have doubt, because there's a chance that I'm wrong, that means I have to choose to believe. Does that make sense? Very good, very good, very good. Jeannie Jones, I just found you on YouTube recently and used the Fruits of the Spirit videos for a Bible study. That's awesome. I love it. I love your quick sermons, but are there any Bible studies you have written and offer? Yeah, actually, there's some out there. A lot of them exist on the YouTube channel, though. So specifically, if you go to A Day in the Word, that playlist on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to find a ton of book studies there. Currently, I'm sort of taking a break from A Day in the Word. I'm taking a break from a lot of things on YouTube, because I'm doing a lot of thinking, a lot of praying, and a lot of planning for the future, for some new things that I'm going to be launching soon that I'm very, very excited about. But for now, go and check out A Day in the Word. I highly recommend it. Sarah asks, what should we do when we see a church charging money to participate in everything? Example, seeing an Easter play. That's interesting. So there are these like weird boundaries when it comes to that sort of thing. You know, I've been a part of churches and go to churches. I have been the speaker at events where churches will charge money in order to come and hear me speak at an evening event. I've never been at a church that would that charged people to come to a Sunday service or a Sunday gathering. Usually it is done from a place of we as a church have invested a lot of money in getting this sort of extra gathering organized, this midweek gathering or this Saturday night or Friday night. And we are going to charge money. We're going to sell tickets so that we can recoup that investment. But beyond that, we're not looking to make a profit off of this thing. And I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that at all. I don't see a problem with that in the slightest. But when it gets to a point of, you know, we're charging you to come to a Sunday service, now that's a bit of a different thing, I think. Yeah, that's what I'd say. All right, friends, unfortunately, that is all the time I have for today, but it's been fun. I know we haven't gotten to do a lot of these lately, but I really do love this community so much. I love getting able to hop on here with about 50 to 100 of you each day and just get to chat. Chloe, we are still sort of taking a break from The Bear and the Swan. We're just trying to find the time when we're going to sit down and record the next episode. We literally talk about doing it every single day. And one of these days, it's going to happen. It's going to be in your feed. I promise you. But thank you to everyone who asked questions. Thank you to everyone who gave in the super chat. Thank you to you all for watching. I love you all very much. I'll see you whenever we have another one of these. Hopefully we can do a couple this week. But I love you all. Keep being awesome.